Hi everyone, today I am here to talk about Written in Bone, Hidden Stories and What We Leave Behind by Sue Black. So this is a book that I randomly found in like one of those little street libraries, where like people just put up a box on the street and people put books in it when they don't want them. You can take them, you can leave some, doesn't, very chill. And I was super excited by this because I'm really fascinated by the human body, and I've read a couple, well, I won't say a couple. I've read another book called Working Stiff, which was about I want to say it was a forensic pathologist. Don't quote me on that. She could have just been a medical examiner. I'm not quite sure what her title was, but she just talked about like different ways that people die, but also what happens to our body and different things that we can do with our body after we die, like water cremation or normal cremation and things like that. And I find all of that stuff very fascinating. And so that's kind of what Sue Black was about. She's a forensic anthropologist, but she talked about bones. Like it was strictly focusing on bones, and that was really fascinating. There was a lot of I'd say like science, like anatomy stuff in the book as well, like how our bones develop and how that can help forensic people discover like how the age of a person when they died, or if they were malnourished or something like that. And so that was really fascinating. There were definitely some parts, especially like in my opinion, when she was talking about the foot and like the bones of the feet, where I was like, I like really don't care. I just kind of wanted to get to the stories that she was telling, because what Sue Black did was she basically went through the body, starting at our head, kind of going all the way down through us, and how those bones can tell us things. And specifically, she was obviously like usually talking about cases of murder. So that was the more interesting part to me. I wanted to hear like, oh, how does, can you see scrapes on a bone? Can you tell the difference if it's an animal or if it's a knife? And like, yes, you can. And just also the importance of identifying bones correctly and making sure you have all of the bones that you can find in the area, so people don't bury a family member and then like a month later they're like, oh yeah, here's some bones, we didn't see them the first time. So yeah, it was just really fascinating, all about the human body, all about different cases she's worked on. Like my mind was just blown by how much Sue Black knows, by how much she's been involved in. She was talking about how she gets calls from like different countries, like, hey, can you come help us out with this case? Can you come help us out with this case? And people that are that good in their field are just like so cool to me. Like imagine just being like a world expert on this and you get a call from like France or something, and they're like, hey, can you come help us look at this body or something? That wasn't, I don't believe she ever went to France in the book, but you get what I mean. Like it's just like, it's so cool to be able to dive into someone's like knowledge about the body. And it was just like, I don't really know what else to say about it, because like it was just about bones and how bone structures develop and how we change. I think what was really most fascinating to me was how our bones are still developing, like sometimes into our 20s. Like I totally didn't know that. I'm like, yeah, I know like when babies are born, their skull isn't all fused together, but then, it eventually does and stuff. And obviously our bones grow. But I thought, kind of once we hit puberty, once we're about the height that we're going to be and everything, it's kind of like our bones aren't really developing more from then. They're just kind of like, I don't want to say like undeveloping. Undeveloping is not a word, but then we age and things in our bones start to fall apart, or we get osteoporosis or arthritis and things like that. But it actually takes like our bones, like a lot changes in them, and we obviously don't see that because they're inside of us. and but like they're just like, they are changing, and that was just so fascinating to me, because obviously we can see the physical changes on the outside. We can see our height changing, we can see our weight changing, we can see like just other things, I don't know, but other developments, throughout life. But it was just really fascinating to learn all about the bones and like how they're still developing and how they can help us learn things about people. And I highly suggest it if that's kind of stuff like won't bother you. Obviously she is a forensic pathologist or anthropologist, and so she's talking about cases where people were murdered, and if that's going to disturb you and bother you, probably don't read this book. And she has wrote another book called All That Remains, and I would definitely love to check that out, because that sounds, I loved Written in Bone, and For me, the human skeleton fascinates me because we all have one. But like I said, obviously we don't ever get to see it unless you go to a museum and see some bones on display or something like that. And so I find it really fascinating to learn about that stuff. I love bones in general. Like, I've found animal bones in the woods. Like, I'll keep them if they're clean enough, you know. The fact that we never see these things unless, like, some injury happens and, like, you get your finger chopped off and your bone's poking out or something, like, ugh. It's not a good thing, you know, while you're alive to be able to see your bones. But they are fascinating, the fact that we all have it. And it's just like, we're just covered in this thing, but like, we're all just weird bones underneath is so interesting to me. And when I think about that, I also think about like how we should all just get along because we're all human and we should all learn to freaking get along with each other. And it's dumb that we don't. But yes, that was Written in Bone. Like I said, I really don't know what else to say about it. It was well written. I thought it was engaging. It's about bones. It's about solving crimes and how bones can help us solve crimes. And that's Sue Black, and I think she's totally awesome. So if that kind of stuff interests you, definitely check it out. For my question, it's going to be, what's my favorite bone? I love skulls. I think skulls just look so freaking cool. I don't care what kind of skull it is. Animal skull, human skulls, like, there's not really any other type of skulls. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, just skulls in general. Animals are human. Baby skulls are freaky. That's just because, you know, disproportionately their eye sockets look absolutely humongous in their heads. That's kind of creepy. So, it was really interesting because I just recently listened to a podcast as well about a scandal at Harvard where their chief medical person there was selling dead body parts along with other people. Like, this whole selling dead body parts ring thing where, you know, people would donate their bodies to the Harvard medical school. They'd be like, yeah, we're using it for medical stuff, but really he was like chopping bodies up and letting people take the parts. And it was really interesting to hear Sue Black's thoughts on like, hey, maybe we shouldn't sell people's body parts. Like, even if it's bones, even if you're like out in a cemetery that's old or something and find some bones, like, maybe leave them there. Maybe be respectful. And that was really interesting because, yeah, I think the human skeleton is really fascinating. And when I was younger, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind having like a human skeleton in my house. Like one that's like put together and stuff. Because like I said, I just think skeletons are cool. But after listening to that podcast and reading this book, I doubt that there's like a legit way I could get a human skeleton. It'd all be shady and from like people on the black market of body part selling or something. And so I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think I can do without a human skeleton in my house when I grow up. I can buy a fake one. It's fine. Like, pull them out at Halloween or something, you know? So yeah, don't sell human body parts. That's just weird and wrong. So yes, that is Written in Bone, Hidden Stories and What We Leave Behind by Sue Black. Highly suggest if it sounds interesting to you, not if you don't like talking about murder and human body parts and dismemberment and stuff, probably don't check this out. Yeah, thanks so much for listening. I try and post videos every Friday, but that just depends on how fast I can read a book. And yes, thank you so much for listening. Comment down below if you have a favorite bone, if you think skeletons are cool. What are your thoughts on that? And thank you so much for listening, and y'all have a great day.